Hey everyone, today I want to talk about some of the real estate investing mistakes that I ended up making throughout the career of me on my acquisition and, just getting my units overall. So the first one was actually pretty funny. It was actually knob and tube work. It's actually electrical work on the property itself. So the funny thing was that I had someone who wasn't really as experienced work on the house itself, and that actually took me forever. I remember every single day, the whole thing took about 2 months just to get one unit ready, and that was ridiculous. It kind of just skyrocketed my holding costs because on my floorplex, I actually had 2 units that were actually empty. The other 2 were actually occupied, so I was actually negative cash flow for a little bit, not really by much. I think it was only like a couple hundred a month per se, probably like $300 outflow. But point being was, when you're actually hiring, your electricians, one thing I learned about it was literally just, find a direct connection. And the way I actually did that was, when I had the ESA inspector go in and, we had a whole bunch of issues going on. Literally, I told the ESA inspector, and I actually told him, and I said straight up, hey, I've already sunk so much money and time into this, and I think I was about 3-4K in, and then adding the holding costs together, probably added about an extra 5K all in just to get it done. And then what ended up happening was, finally the ESA inspector was like, hey, you know what? I have a list of my 3 guys right here. And, he gave me the phone number. I ended up contacting the guy, let the guys go in, quote it. And then at that point, what basically happened was, we had a pretty, decent work done. It was so much quicker. It was done in about 2 weeks for the whole unit. And then the rough thing about working on electricals in real estate is that you need to actually tear down your walls. You need to rip it open. You need to gut it to the studs for some of the things. For my property per se, it didn't actually have any insulation. So it was literally gutted to the studs. So whole point being is because that was actually gutted to the studs, we ended up having to pass the rough-in inspection first. And once we actually passed the rough-in inspection, that was when the ESA inspector comes in and says, okay, everything's good, wired, it's been wired to code, and then now at this point you could start putting up the drywall. So drywall, everything was already put back in, and then final inspection comes. We have to fix a couple more items here. But whole point being of this was literally, if you want a good electrician to actually be working on your properties, I feel like the better way is literally just to call up ESA and ask them, just be straight up, who is one of the best electricians that you guys have, and then potentially have them recommended to you. And it's always a lot safer. So I think that would be one of the things that actually changed, just going back, looking at it. All right, so next mistake I ended up making, it was more so just kind of inheriting a really bad tenant. The way I could have actually, dealt with it better was literally, do a little bit more research into getting a property. This property I had, this tenant literally was dealing drugs every single freaking day. The tenant downstairs, they ended up telling me stuff, and they said, hey, listen, we have literally 20 to 30 people per day coming here, knocking on the door at night, trying to buy drugs and whatever. And then, push comes to shove, it's a lot of the cops aren't really willing to do a lot of things. And then the main thing I was just gonna say for this one was, because of the whole quarantine and the virus thing that ended up happening, there is a ban on eviction, so you can't actually get your tenants out at the moment. But weird scenario that I'm kind of in right now is, the property hasn't actually been resolved yet, but we're kind of waiting for things to open up. So this whole thing could have literally been avoided if, you just talk to the lower tenants. It was also actually a duplex, so if you actually talk to the lower tenants here, literally they wouldn't be able to tell you. It'd be hey, this guy runs a lot of drugs per se, blah blah blah. And then if you ask some of the neighbors, they'll even tell you what's going on. So that could be avoided if you're actually inheriting tenants. Most of the times when you're buying a property that's undervalued, if you have tenants that are under market valued, it does make it does actually give you a lot more room to negotiate a better price. And the reasoning behind it is mainly just because the landlord already kind of knows evicting is going to be a pain in the butt. So if you actually like, you know, have issues with evicting tenants that are under rented, that's where, you know, I think you could actually buy it in for a lot cheaper per se. But, you know, those were kind of like the common two off the top of my head. I'd say the other one was more so purchasing an illegal unit. So whole point being was, you know, like one of the properties I actually purchased ended up having an extra non-conforming unit, and then when we were actually evicting the tenant, one of them ended up reporting it to the city. So now there's an active work order actually going on. But most of the things I kind of realized like with this one is a lot of real estate is really just kind of like solving problems, and you know, it could be like a little difficult like time to time, but you know, usually if you're a bit of like an entrepreneur or like some sort of investor, it make a lot more sense for you to actually like, you know, take on these problems. Like most of them isn't that hard to solve. I mean, for the work order per se, we literally just have like, you know, it's like a $3,000 expense at best. I mean, we gotta take out the kitchen, we gotta take out the bathroom, and then we got to, you know, just like patch it up, and then we'll be good. That'll just be like one separate room and by itself, so won't really be too much of an expense in my opinion. It was more so kind of just like the whole virus quarantine that ended up causing, you know, the eviction to delay. So we're kind of just waiting on, you know, the tenants actually get out from the whole eviction thing, and then after, when that actually happens, that's when, you know, the eviction will get out, and then, you know, once the work order clears too, we're just gonna fix everything all in one swoop. So those are kind of just like the main items off the top of my head. You know, even just like being in the real estate game for about a year now, like actually actively investing in real estate, I think my overall opinion of, you know, just investing in it is, it's amazing. I mean, it's just pretty fun to me, like the way I look at it no matter what. Even though like, you know, problems kind of suck most of the time, but like I have a property manager that deals with a lot of those things to begin with. If it comes to tenants, it's more like I would just kind of come in for like the higher level issues. But this is about something I wanted to share with you in terms of the real estate journey. So, you know, like just give you guys like a bit of an update on what I've been doing. I've been kind of fully retired, just been doing real estate, just trading, and then been kind of gaming a lot. So I'm trying to get back into like making some content, doing something, putting, you know, videos out there again to just like help the public again, and then, you know, be excited about it. But make sure you guys subscribe, hit the like thing, do that first, hit the like, and you know, we'll see you guys soon.